Today's Friday, October 18th, and you are listening to episode number 11 of the DogHouse podcast.
From DogHouseSystems.com, this is the DogHouse podcast.
All right, we'd like to welcome everybody back. Again, this is episode number 11, and today, once again, I've got both Abby and Lorenzo joining me in the studio.
Hello.
Hello, everyone.
How you guys been doing?
I've been okay.
No complaints here?
I mean, I've been better.
Please elaborate.
Alabama lost to Vanderbilt 2 weeks ago.
That was mean. I knew I shouldn't have gone there, but...
No, you're good.
Yeah, that was... I know that was not a fun day in the Ruff household.
That one hurt.
Yeah. Well...
That one really hurt.
Who are they playing this weekend again?
Tennessee.
That's right.
Mm-hmm. Third Saturday in October.
That's right. What's the line on that game? You guys are still favored to win, right?
I think so.
At this point, though, it's Alabama's had a rough year.
Oh, yeah. We were good. And then after the Georgia game, I don't know what happened.
Well, on the flip side, there's a good Texas game that's going to be happening this weekend.
Yeah. Texas, Georgia.
Yep.
Yeah. That one will be interesting.
That one will definitely, for anybody that's into football, and I'm looking over at Lorenzo and he's like, not me.
I have no idea what you're talking about.
He's like over my head.
He's into the real games, the good stuff, the PC gaming. In fact, I think you'll have some stuff to go over today.
Yeah, I just might.
Awesome. Well, we've got some things to go over today on Bark Bits. We're going to talk a little bit about Microsoft in regards to Flight Simulator. And also, I think we're going to cover an interesting one, RedBox Bankruptcy, in a little bit.
R.I.P. RedBox.
Yeah. And as we do each week, Abby has put together a nice list of games to go over. So looking forward to going through that. And then we're going to talk about adventures in USB with Lorenzo a little bit later on today. So
I'm so worried about that.
Yeah, we told Abby just enough to make her nervous.
It's been a week.
It has. And we'll go into that in more detail. But at this point, let's go ahead and get into Bark Bits. And on our first story, we're going to talk about Microsoft Simulator. And you found a pretty nice little article.
Yeah, so the YouTube channel Lawn.tv, actually the creator Lon Seidman has a video comparing playing Microsoft Flight Sim with a yoke and pedal set to actually piloting, I forget which aircraft it was, but overall mentioned that he found it to be easier to pilot in real life in person than, especially landing, than it was to land in game, which is kind of interesting.
That was, yeah. It was a Piper Cherokee. Back in the day, my first workings on a flight simulator was Flight Simulator 2.0, and it was on my Commodore 64, and it was on cassette. And that was pretty awesome. And Lorenzo's laughing over there.
I'm just imagining loading a game from cassette. I don't go back that far. Loading from floppy disk, 3.5-inch floppy, yes, but cassette, I can't imagine.
It was, after I had my Commodore, I think I got it around 1982 or 83. I did a lot of typing in programs because there were some, like a Compute Gazette, there were a number of magazines where you could literally type a game, type it in. There was two methods. One would be through BASIC, and then there was a machine language compiler that you could set up, and then you had to type it all in. And talk about really having to pay attention because you're just typing numbers in and enter and having to do it over and over. And there was some type of utility that could double check. It was like a checksum editor. But all that being said, I would type the games in, spend a good 2-3 hours maybe, play it. And the bad part was when you turned off the computer, it was gone. So because there was no storage that I had. So I saved up some money, or it may have even been a gift. But about a year later, I got the cassette player for the Commodore 64. And I'll tell you what, that to me was the coolest thing, because, you could do one of those programs and you could save it and play it back, or, load it up later. But my first game that I got on cassette was Flight Simulator 2.0. Loading that game, I think it took somewhere between 15 and 20 minutes to load the game, which, at the time still was like, you could load this game and play it.
You could go get yourself a snack in that time.
Oh my God. Yeah, exactly. Take a short nap. I mean, lots of different things.
Maybe you could walk around the neighborhood.
Exactly. But I was in love with that. The program didn't have a joystick at the time, so all the controls were done on the keyboard. I think the frame rate might have been 3 frames a second. It was pretty awful. But the plane that I got to learn and fly in was a Piper Archer. So not the same thing, but basically with what he was able to fly in, good beginner aircraft. Like you said, his comments were really interesting, because even on the newer sims, one of the hardest things for me is landing it on the center line, keeping it on the center line. And I wondered, would it be difficult in real life? And I kind of thought it can't be. But yeah, that was real interesting feedback. So that was some pretty cool memories, thinking back almost 40 years ago. Wow, it was 40 years ago.
Yes, it was.
Doesn't feel like it.
The disbelief on his face.
Yeah, I was like, oh my gosh. Here we are today. Things obviously are a lot different. In fact, we have teamed up with Flying Magazine, and we do have our own products online. And there is a person that I really want to get on a future podcast, hopefully sooner than later. And Sean Siff has written some articles for Flying, and he is really on the cool deep end of building up a flight rig. And I think it'd be a lot of fun to get him on the show to be able to talk about some of the custom pieces that he has. But for those of you guys that are listening to the podcast, anybody that are into flight simulators, it'd be real interesting to learn what kind of equipment you guys are using outside of just the computer, but maybe the yoke, the throttle controls, different things like that. And if you guys would like to let us know, shoot us an email, and we'll go over all the ways at the end of the podcast of how you guys could reach out to us. But again, love to get Sean on a future episode, and we'll have to get that in the works. So let's talk about RedBox.
Yeah, let's. They've officially filed for bankruptcy. Well, they've actually switched over their bankruptcy filing from restructuring to liquidation. They had about 24,000, they call them kiosks. So they're 24,000 machines nationwide at Walmart's, Walgreens, the 24-hour stores where you could just purchase, you could rent a movie, or at some point you could rent a game. They are officially not selling anymore. With the streaming services that have come up, the company just can't make up the money that they need to continue. And they have found that selling off their movies and scrapping the machines would actually be more expensive than just to do nothing with them. But fear not, some engineers and tinkerers on the internet found the machine codes that were posted online, and they've been trying to reverse engineer them. And someone managed to do so, and they played Doom on the machine.
Nice.
Posted it on a Reddit thread that I will link in the show notes, but it was actually pretty cool to see.
I bet that I saw a couple of the screenshots. We were taking a look before recording, and that it's pretty amazing.
There was a video of someone trying to just process a transaction. A transaction went through, but the charge never came through. I'm guessing because it doesn't have an active internet connection, but it dispensed the media. So I don't know if they're just going to
they
keep accruing
probably
late fees.
Still have electricity. saw that they, some of them are like wired into the buildings like electricity. So they will still run. You, like Lorenzo said, probably just won't get charged if you like end up going up and seeing if it works.
This is not advice. Do not go in.
Please don't do this.
Try to rent a movie from RedBox.
Lorenzo says that. I was about to say, Abby, the Walgreens by our house, I think there's still a RedBox set up there.
Let's go.
Sure there's one across from our place as well. Yeah.
Well, maybe we'll let you guys know whether or not that still works next week.
R.I.P. Redbox. You served everyone well.
All right, let's go ahead and get into tech treats. And leading us off, Lorenzo's got a game that he is going to talk to us about, Metaphor.
Yeah, Metaphor ReFantazio released last week, I believe, at the time of recording. Here's my early review. I'm only about 12 hours in, but the game's already fantastic. It's like the Persona series, if you ever played it. It's from the same team. But you finally escaped high school is my joke, because all of the other Persona games are set in high school with high school aged kids. This one's set in sort of a medieval European fantasy setting, and I'd sum up the game as an anime fantasy turn-based action adventure resource management social sim JRPG. That's a long description, but essentially in the game, you're vying for the crown. So you're trying to become king, from what I can tell anyway. I don't think I'm even out of the prologue yet.
Okay.
Because I'm sure if it's like the other Persona games, it can be super long games. So 12 hours in, I'm basically in the tutorial.
Wow.
So in that, instead of having personas, which were basically, think of them like Pokemon, you collect them and you use their abilities to help you fight. In this game, you unlock and embody archetypes of heroes to aid you in combat. And the interesting thing here is, usually in a Persona game, the main character can switch between different personas or different classes, I guess. In this one, all of your party members can freely switch between any of the classes. So it's more of like a classic job system, but each member has to unlock and level up each class independently of one another.
Okay.
You can also inherit skills from other classes. You can make sort of hybrid classes. So if you want healing, but you don't want to specifically have a full-time healer as your class, you can just learn the healing ability from another class, equip that onto your current archetype. Primarily a turn-based game, like a traditional JRPG, but in the overworld, when you're exploring, it transitions to an action combat RPG. So you can preemptively attack a group of enemies, and if you're higher level than them, you can take them out with 1 or 2 hits. But there is the risk that they can attack you during that time and then start the battle with an advantage against you, and that gives them 2 turns to punish you for trying to attack them, which is pretty interesting.
Yeah.
Couple quality of life features. So there's a rewind feature that lets you, at any point during any combat encounter, once it gets to that turn-based setting, just restart the battle from the beginning.
Oh, nice.
So if you start, for example, a boss battle and you find out that, I totally needed to buff, or I should have waited for this turn to happen or this action to happen, you can just restart from the beginning, which is, I think traditional JRPG fans might be a little off-put by that because they want the challenge. But I'm a casual gamer. I think people just getting into the franchise would like that little ability to redo the encounter without having to, turn off the game and load up their previous saves.
I agree. I'd be in the same boat. And for the hardcores, they just simply don't use that feature.
Use it at all.
Yeah.
Yeah. So the resource management social sim aspect is, outside of your dungeon diving and battles, you have a set number of days, each consisting of morning and night. And you can spend your time either diving into those dungeons, exploring, trying to actually progress through the story, or you can spend that combining resources and crafting. You can spend it helping people in town or leveling up your social relationships with your followers, who are people who support you in the journey. And certain skills you have called your royal virtues, you need to also spend time leveling those up, because some followers won't even interact with you, or some quests will be locked behind having that at a certain level. So that's the social sim part of it. Yeah, it's great. If you're into JRPGs and you've played the Persona series, it's right there. You'll probably love it. If not, you might find it to be a little overwhelming. Because as soon as you get out of your first battle encounter, it's like, okay, here's your calendar. Here's the amount of time you have. Go spend it wisely.
Oh.
So you have to decide, do I want to go and progress the story? And every major story event is gated by time. So you'll have X number of days to complete this part of the story. And if you don't, you fail. The game is over. And you have to reload your previous save and hope that you have enough time to finish it. So, for example, the first dungeon I went into, it said I had 10 days to do it. And knowing from past Persona games, hey, take this seriously, I was able to do it in 2. But I don't know if that locks me out of other things that I would have missed if I hadn't completed it in that short amount of time.
Wow.
Yeah.
That seems stressful.
It is. I like it. I like it. So you also can choose the difficulty and freely move up and down in it. So I'm just playing on normal. I'm not going to play on hard or merciless or whatever the highest tier is, but it's pretty enjoyable. Yeah.
It seems like you have quite a bit of time management that you really have to be cognitive of, for sure.
Yeah, time, resource, if you want to make items that restore your mana, for lack of a better term, to use your spells, again, for lack of a better term, that takes an entire day or night cycle to repair those.
Gotcha.
So if you want to make a bunch of those, you have to spend a bunch of the time that you could be doing other things with.
Yeah.
Right.
What are you figuring it's going to be, about an 80-hour game to get through?
Probably 80 or 100 hours. Yeah. Previous games or anything to go by. Yeah.
Get your money's worth then.
Yeah, definitely get your money's worth.
That's awesome. Abby, you've got some games that you're going to be sharing with us once again this week.
I do. The fantasy game of the week is Skull and Bones. Set sail into the vibrant open world of Skull and Bones, a naval online action RPG where you rise to become the most fearsome pirate kingpin. Customize your fleet, craft unique ships, and forge formidable weapons to dominate in exhilarating sea battles. It's $59.99 on Steam.
The casual game of the week
The casual game of the week is Party Animals. It's in all caps, but I felt like I would bust someone's headphones if I just started yelling. Fight your friends as puppies, kittens, and other fuzzy creatures and party animals. Paw it out with your friends remotely or huddle together for chaotic fun on the same screen. Interact with the world under our realistic physics engine. And did I mention puppies?
Puppies.
Yeah. The 1-year anniversary update was released on the 24th last month, and it's $19.99 on Steam.
Nice.
Yeah. And then there are 2 epic free games of the week. Invincible presents Adam Eve. Become Adam Eve and take control of your path as one of the most powerful superheroes in the Invincible universe. Unravel a mystery and balance the dangers and responsibilities of being a superhero with the relatable challenges of everyday life.
Interesting.
Mm-hmm. And then Cardboard Kings. Open your own card shop by the seaside. Buy, trade, and sell cards or keep them for your collection. Earn a reputation with customers, beat your shop goals, unlock new decorations, and host exciting events to bring everyone to the best card shop in town.
I wonder if both of these are worth playing. Once again, they're free, so you got that. But maybe we'll go ahead and put the links.
Dear Lord.
A sick burn to those poor developers. Like, I don't know if they're any good, but they're free.
They might be.
Yeah, I think what we'll also do is put the post up in our show notes, the link to Should I Play It? With those 2 guys that will do a mini review of both of those games. I think the answer is always it's definitely not going to hurt to try it out because you can't beat free. Mm-hmm. But at the same time, might be worth taking a look at their mini review because there might be a game here and there that's worth steering away from. But hopefully out of these 2, hopefully both of these are great games. Mm-hmm. Again, you can't beat free, so.
You cannot. And Steam's Next Fest is happening right now until the 21st. Explore upcoming games and try out free demos. Wishlist your favorites to get notified when they get released.
Nice. Mm-hmm. Well, let's go ahead and get into Pack Talk. This is going to be an interesting one, I think. Lorenzo, let's talk about USB.
So it's story time. So, I'll preface this. So the title I had for this is Why Doesn't My USB-C port work for everything? And the reason I thought of this topic was I have in the past about week killed 2 motherboards using a USB-C hub that provides power delivery. So one was full-size desktop motherboard. The monitor I have has a built-in hub that provides power delivery and can also switch the input on the monitor to display what is output. So one cable to your system, the monitor has mouse and keyboard attached, will provide power, and also does video. So I thought this motherboard has, it's an older motherboard. I thought this one has USB-C. I'll plug it in. It should work. Plug it in, instantly hear a pop and see a little bit of smoke come out of the back of the computer. So I thought, oh, that's not great. But I know this port works with my tablet and my phone, both of which use USB. So I said, well, I better figure out what works and what doesn't. So I plugged it in my phone, hoping that nothing happened, and nothing did. It output video, keyboard and mouse were connected. It worked fine. A couple of days later, I have a little mini PC that also has, this one should be a full service port. Same thing, plug it in and it dies. Turns out it's only a full service port with a specific CPU and not the CPU I had in it.
That's interesting. Did you get the little puff of smoke out of that one too?
That one, I didn't see smoke, but I smelled it. The USB-C port on that one is under a metal shield. So
Okay.
I'm guessing the smoke stayed inside,
contained.
didn't fully escape. Yeah, so...
Man, that's rough.
Yeah, so there may be something wrong with the monitor, but it works with other devices just fine. But I've just unplugged the cable and not going to use that port anymore. I'll just use the other USB B to A cable on that. So with all that said, learn from my mistakes and figure out what your USB ports support, and specifically USB-C. So USB-C is a physical connector. You'll see it on phones, laptops, cameras, desktops, anything really at this point. But USB-C, the physical connector, can be utilized for USB 2, 3.2, 3.2 Gen 1, 3.2 Gen 2, 3.2 Gen 1 and Gen 2 by 1, 3.2 Gen 1 and Gen 2 by 2, USB 4. They can be used for USB-C PD, power delivery, Thunderbolt 3, and Thunderbolt 4. It's a lot of options that can use the same physical connector.
Yeah.
And the capability of that connector depends on the host device, so your phone, tablet, computer, and also the endpoint device, which would be like your USB hub, your monitor, charger even would be an endpoint device, and also the cable.
The cable, that's what I was going to ask.
The cable is a big part of that. If both of your devices support it, but you plug them in and nothing happens, it's because your cable does not have either the physical wires attached, does not have the electronics at the end of the cable, or just isn't high quality enough to support whatever you're trying to do with it.
Right.
So all of those standards are able to use the USB-C connector. If the good news is there are a couple of easy checkboxes you can do. So if your system supports or is labeled as, that port anyway, is labeled as being Thunderbolt 3 or 4, it should support everything in every case as long as you're using a Thunderbolt cable. It may work with the USB 4 cable or high quality USB 3.2 Gen 2 by 2 cable.
You got that, Abby?
Try saying that 5 times fast.
It is very confusing. USB IF, the nonprofit that actually maintains and promotes USB standards, in the past has made kind of a mess of the naming scheme.
Yeah.
But we'll get into that in a minute. So if you have Thunderbolt 3 or 4, everything should work as long as you're using a Thunderbolt cable. And the nice thing about Thunderbolt is it is also backwards compatible with every other iteration of USB. So Thunderbolt 4 will support USB 4 and everything down to USB 2. Thunderbolt 3 may support USB 4, but it definitely will support everything from USB 2 all the way up to 3.2 Gen 2 by 2. USB 4 ports are a little bit more nuanced. They should always be full featured as well, just like Thunderbolt ports, but the minimum data rating instead of 40 gigabit per second is 20 on USB 4.
Okay.
But USB 4 can technically go up to 80 gigabit per second. So higher maximum, but lower minimum threshold to be considered a USB 4 port. Same with power. So both should support up to 100 watts of power, but USB 4 ports possibly can support up to 240 watts of power.
Oh,
And the current maximum for Thunderbolt 3 and 4 is 100 watts. I haven't seen anything that will do 240 volts,
right.
40
Watts, yeah.
over USB 4, but at some point. USB 3.2 ports should be labeled by speed rating. So if you have a USB-C port that says 5 gigabit, 10 gigabit, or 20 gigabit, it is most likely a USB 3.2 port. The Gen 1, Gen 2 by 1 by 2 has been dropped, at least from customer-facing documents. So you may see it in system specifications. And USB 2 supports 480 megabit per second data and some power. Depends on how well the cable's made. Can support up to 100 watts over USB 2.0 Type-C connector, but it's not always guaranteed. Modern devices, not the old devices I was using. Modern devices should be labeled by speed rating. So as long as if you see 40 gigabit per second or USB 4 or either Thunderbolt full service port or full featured port, so it'll support data, video out, and power. If you see 20 gigabit per second or USB 3 or 420, probably will work with everything you have. Long way of saying we need better labeling for this.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah. I just thought it'd be an interesting little story time. Even we make mistakes and can break, worst case scenario, break electronics. I think there is something wrong with the controller in that monitor.
In the monitor itself,
right,
yeah.
Where it is sending power before negotiating, hey, what can you do? What can you accept to the device on the other end?
That's cool, but kind of scary.
It is. Yeah, it's pretty scary.
So what would be your best advice to the people listening?
I would look up the specs beforehand, which I did.
Even scarier.
Even scarier, yeah. So I did look up the specs, and I know the motherboard should have supported data and video, but not power, which should have been fine because power shouldn't have been sent. The mini PC I had, though, should have supported everything. So that's just a faulty piece of hardware. But
going back to that monitor, yes.
Yeah.
But,
so, yeah. The nice thing is on most modern Intel devices, laptops, motherboards, you'll probably have Thunderbolt ports,
right,
which are the most stringent in their requirements. So if it's Thunderbolt, it has to support everything, with the caveat that it's only up to 100 watts of power, which is fine. And most modern AMD systems will all be USB 4, which is nice because that integrates Thunderbolt 3 as well. So You should be all set on a modern device. On an older device, you really need to look up the specifications. I know the latest iPhone, there's a difference between the lower end and higher end, where the lower end is only USB 2.0. Will not, probably, I don't have one, but probably because it's 2.0 will not support data out. Okay. Video out. It'll support data just fine.
Right.
Speeds, but it probably won't do video out and will charge at a lower speed if it's following the USB specification. The higher end is, I think, a 3.2 Gen 2, 20 gigabit and maybe 10 gigabit, but it should support everything from data, power, and video display out.
And if it meets those specifications, you try something that doesn't work, again, a reminder, check the cable, because you might, again, that's where it gets confusing. Same interface, but it's happened to me before. So I've got some Thunderbolt 4 cables that I make sure they're labeled properly, and because I've kind of gone through that frustration a couple of times.
Yeah. If you have a higher end cable, a cable that supports, for example, Thunderbolt, it should support everything down the stack from there.
Right.
So I personally use a bunch of Anchor USB 4 cables that are rated for up to 40 gigabit per second or 240 watts. So they should work for everything. It's an odd one. It's a really odd one, yeah.
Well, thanks for sharing.
Thanks. Yeah. Thanks for hearing about my my misadventures in tech over the past week.
Sorry about the smoke.
That's fine.
I got some announcements.
Let's hear them.
Yeah. We're doing a spring cleaning a little earlier this year. So over on doghousesystems.com, we are selling some components and so we can prepare for the next new fun stuff.
Yeah, and you did a great job of getting those set up because we had some video cards that are not quite current generation at this point, but for folks that might want to be able to get a good price on some older tech, there's some things out there. We're going to keep putting things on, and the easiest way to get to it is if you go to the homepage, hover over the products at the top, and then you'll see accessories and components. Click on that, and it'll take you right to those products.
Yep. And then as of last Wednesday, NVIDIA has ceased production of their RTX 4090s, which in turn means that we will no longer be selling the 4090s as we wait for NVIDIA to announce the release of their 5090s.
Yep. Assuming that's what they're going to call it, then most likely they will. I hope it's sooner than later. I've heard through the rumor mills that it might not get announced till CES, which is right at the beginning of the year. I hope that's not the case, but yeah, that's a little frustrating that we might have to wait that long.
But stay tuned. We'll announce it when we start selling them.
Yeah, exactly. Hopefully, again, sooner than later. And I'm going to rewind a little bit here when we were talking about that accessories page that you set up, and we talked about older technology. Actually, one of the items on there that's pretty cool is RTX 4080, and it's not the 4080 Super that we're currently selling, but that's kind of an idea of some of the things that we've got on there, along with some coolers and just different things. So if you guys are curious, check it out.
Yeah.
Well, thank you, Abby. I appreciate that.
No problem.
If you could do with me one more favor.
Of course.
Earlier, we talked about ways that folks could reach out to us. And we'd love if you guys have any kind of feedback, certain stories that you might want us to cover, certain parts of tech, certain games. Reach out to us, and Abby will go over all the many ways that you can.
Yeah, you can email us at podcast@doghousesystems.com. You can give us a call at 972-810-4347, or you can DM us on Instagram, Facebook, Threads, and X at Doghouse Systems.
So it's almost weekend time. Can't wait. And now we have the cooler weather finally. You guys have anything fun lined up other than stress watching a football game?
I'm getting my hair cut this weekend.
There you go.
Yeah.
Don't do it while you're watching the game. You might end up with a hairstyle you didn't expect.
One time a couple of years ago, one of my friends from high school that I was still in contact with, she got engaged, and so she wanted to go dress shopping on the day of the Iron Bowl.
Oh.
Right after Thanksgiving. And so we went down to like outer Dallas. And on the way home, I was watching this game on my phone. And my friends thought I was crazy. And I was like, I'm not. This is just a really big game for us.
Yeah. Yeah. What people don't get it. What's up with that? And then Lorenzo's laughing.
Or it's like, I have no idea what you're talking about.
It's like, is that with Iron Man or?
It's the state rivalry between the University of Alabama and Auburn University.
Okay.
They just call it the Iron Bowl.
Iron Bowl.
So
Okay. Cool.
Auburn.
they have two mascots.
War Eagles.
War Tigers.
War Tigers.
They're the War Eagles and then the Tigers.
Ah, I didn't realize that.
They have an eagle similar to like the Philadelphia Eagles. They have an eagle that.
Yeah, I
flies
was
around
familiar
the
with the
stadium.
War Eagles, but not the Tiger. Yeah, Auburn Tiger. Yeah,
Their mascot's the tiger.
that's right. Don't know what I was thinking. Sorry for all those folks that are big, huge fans of Auburn.
I'm not. Roll Tide.
How about you, Lorenzo? Anything exciting?
Hoping to get in a little more gaming time. And we're going to be painting pumpkins this weekend.
Well, that will be cool.
Painting and or carving.
Nice.
Yeah.
And we'll want to see photos.
Oh, no. Okay. I will try to remember to take a few photos.
We'll put those in the show notes.
Yeah, there you go.
Yeah.
Nice. Well, I hope y'all have a wonderful weekend. I hope everybody listening has a wonderful, safe weekend.
We never got to hear what you're doing this weekend.
Oh,
Do
actually,
not try and get out of
Yeah,
this.
don't get out of this. This isn't fair. I was like, hang on a minute.
we're dog sitting. My daughter and her husband are coming up for the weekend. Well, not to be with us. They're bringing their dogs. And we are going to be dog sitting. They are going to Colorado for a medical convention. And then they'll be back on Sunday. So it's just a couple days with dogs. And then they're actually going to stay with us for about a month. They both got accepted into an internship at a local hospital in Dallas. And they're going to be working on getting a step closer to being doctors. So they've done an incredible job. Really proud of them. And again, we'll be babysitting dogs this weekend.
That sounds like a dream.
Something like a dream. Actually, those dogs are really cool. They're pretty self-sufficient, which makes things a little easier. Well, thanks for including me, and hope everybody has a wonderful, safe weekend. And we will be back next week for episode number 12. Until then, you guys take care. Toodaloo.
Jinx.